Welcome to the Kill Count, where we tally up the victims in all our favorite horror movies. I'm James A. Janice, and today we've got our first official Kill Count reboot, because I'm doing Night of the Living Dead all over again, from the ground up, just like it's undead ghouls. When I first covered this movie back in 2017, the Kill Count was a different show, with way less information and much worse audio processing.
Everything from The Walking Dead to World War Z can be traced back to this little indie film.
I don't think it's fair that the movies covered on those early kill counts get the short end of the stick in terms of production quality and behind the scenes info. That's why I'll be redoing some of them going forward. Night of the Living Dead right now, and starting in August, the entire series that started the channel, Friday the 13th. As important as Friday was to the genre and my channel though, there's no worthier candidate for the Kill Count's first ever second look than Night of the Living Dead. Released in 1968 by director George Romero, who was also the co-writer, editor, and cinematographer, this independent zombie movie changed everything about the horror genre. I'd argue just as much as Psycho did 8 years earlier. Yeah, Psycho popularized a man killing other people in violent ways, but Night of the Living Dead was a truly horrific experience. Way more graphic and realistic than what most audience members were used to seeing. Before this, horror movies were gothic or schlocky, a reasonable matinee that you could send your kids to. Screenings of Night of the Living Dead left unattended children in tears, and it was one of the movies frequently cited as leading to the creation of the MPAA. Looking back, it's no surprise that this grim film came out when it did, as American audiences were living in one of the most turbulent years in modern history. The historical influences on and impacts of this movie were immense, but the Kill Count isn't the best place to discuss that, which is why you should check out our podcast episode, Zombies in America's Nightmares, where Chelsea and I discuss those ideas in depth. What I can say in this Kill Count is that you can thank this movie for the modern zombie. Before this, zombies were the stuff of Haitian folklore, brainwashed ghouls who were controlled by voodoo. It was Night of the Living Dead that made them flesh-eating, reanimated corpses. In fact, Romero didn't even think of them as zombies when he made the movie.
And I thought I was doing a new creature.
Regardless of what they were called, Romero wrote the monsters as a metaphor for society's collapse and the disintegration of the family unit. The symbolism of the undead would grow even more apparent in his first two sequels, the shopping mall set Dawn of the Dead and the militaristic Day of the Dead. I'll be covering both of those in the next couple of weeks, but after that, I'll be moving on to other stuff. I know that Romero made 3 more sequels in the mid to late 2000s, that all 3 films of the original trilogy have been remade, and that Return of the Living Dead and its 4 sequels could also be considered a sort of spin-off series from this film. I have seen the flowchart image. I know. But I can't just drown in zombies for months straight, y'all. We're gonna have to get piecemeal up in this bitch. So we're starting here today with the OG, the Coca-Cola Classic, the grandfather of The Walking Dead. Of course, Night of the Living Dead didn't only inspire zombie movies and TV shows. It also inspired zombie books, which you could listen to using today's sponsor, Audible. Audible offers thousands of audiobooks and podcasts through their popular Plus catalog, including titles like Pride and Prejudice and Zombies and World War Z, which I absolutely love. They also have I Am Legend, which was a huge inspiration for Romero when he made this movie. He just swapped out vampires for undead ghouls and rewound the apocalypse back to the beginning. I've used Audible to reread the Lord of the Rings trilogy, and Chelsea uses it to learn about the Tudor dynasty, like the queen that she is. You can get a 30-day free trial of Audible's catalog by visiting audible.com/deadmeat or texting dead meat to the number 500-500. That's audible.com/deadmeat or text dead meat to 500-500 to try Audible today. Thanks, Audible. To make things interesting, my dumbass has decided to count zombie deaths. Let's see if that decision drives me insane and get to the kills. The movie begins with a car driving around the bend into a title card, making it a title card. Right away, the mood is eerie, and not just because of the splattered with something cemetery sign. The score blaring on the soundtrack is unabashedly unsettling. The music in this movie wasn't an original composition. It was essentially stock music, already 10 years old, and had previously been used in the sci-fi flick Teenagers from Outer Space. Night of the Living Dead was the ultimate indie film. With a budget of only $117,000, Romero and his small crew did everything themselves, using the experience they gained making local commercials under their small production company, The Latent Image. The only thing none of them knew how to do was make music, which is why Romero used pre-existing tracks from the Haiku library. Siblings Barbara and Johnny are here to pay respects to their deceased father, or their disrespects, as the case may be.
I don't even remember what the man looks like.
Johnny, it takes you 5 minutes.
Yeah, 5 minutes to put the wreath on the grave and 6 hours to drive back and forth.
Johnny's played by Russell Striner, one of the film's producers. Most of the crew would end up on screen in order to save money. Barbara is played by Judith O'Dea, who was a standout convention meet when I talked to her in 2018. Absolutely delightful woman. While at the grave, Johnny sees a man in a suit sauntering around. In true sibling fashion, he uses it to tease Barb.
They're coming to get you, Barbara.
Stop it! You're ignorant.
Suited cemetery guy ain't just teasing though, and he grabs at Barbara with his Herman Munster face. Johnny tries to help his sister out, but as she watches in horror, he gets brained against a gravestone on the ground. Fucking ouch. As the storm begins to open up, the ghoul chases Barbara through the cemetery and into her car, where he uses a brick to try to force his way in. He may not have strength, but he does have persistence, and his use of a tool pays off. What a brainy brain eater.
My zombies have never eaten brains. They're this misconception.
Yeah, you're right, George. That's more of a Return of the Living Dead thing. Sorry for that to the numbers gag I did in the original kill count. Brains! Barb escapes in neutral and wrecks her ride against a tree, then flees on foot until she finds a farmhouse. Quick, Barb, that stock chase music is wildin' the fuck out. Get inside and shut it up! Yeah, there you go. This farmhouse setting was another way Night modernized the horror genre. It's symbolic, in fact, that the movie starts off in a graveyard, harkening back to the gothic style of Universal monster flicks, before relocating to a much more domestic and modern place. Sadly, the farmhouse itself was demolished some time ago, but the cemetery still stands where the movie was filmed. Evans City, Pennsylvania, about 30 miles north of Pittsburgh, which is where Romero went to college. Go Panthers. Barb arms herself with a knife and examines her newly found fortress. Whoever lived here loved taxidermy, but hated paying their phone bills. Oh, and also, they are dead. Barb finds a scully face at the top of the stairs, and though it's half a skelly, fuck it, let's count this corpse for fun. With the cemetery zombie inviting his bros over for a hangout, it only makes sense for Barb to get a house guest too. Enter Badass Ben, played by the marvelous Dwayne Jones. He's ready to take control of this situation and the entire movie. Good timing too, since Barbara's been shocked into utter uselessness. Like, what are you even doing right now, Barb? Feeling on that wall. Do the snozberries taste like snozberries? Ben sees a couple of zombies trashing his truck, so he goes out there to beat some ass with a tire iron. Like I said, this time through, I've decided to count zombies, though I do reserve the right to call it off if any of the sequels get too wild. Zombie movies always killing like thousands of zombies, man. It's not fun to count. Another zombie, played by co-writer John A. Russo, enters the farmhouse and comes to get Barbara. Ben returns in time to save her and get another kill by stabbing the zombie in the forehead with his tire iron. Nice kill, dude.
Don't look at it.
What, not even to compliment your work? Okay. Ben lights up the body to keep the approaching Zeds away, then gets to work finding tools to make this place safe. While he's at it, he gives Barbara an empathetic pep talk.
God damn. Look, I know you're afraid. I'm afraid too.
That's enough to get her to help, and the two of them tear the place apart and board it up until it's looking like a Call of Duty Zombies map. Appropriately, Ben then finds a rifle in the closet, a Winchester 1894, according to the Internet Movie Firearms Database. Ben and Barb exchange stories about what led them to this farmhouse, giving Dwayne Jones the chance to show off his training as a theater actor.
I started to drive. I just plowed right through them. They didn't move, they didn't run or just stood there staring at me.
Barbara's story is a bit less dramatic.
And he said, "Can I have some candy, Barbara?" We didn't have any.
The tale of the candy that wasn't there upsets Barbara so much she tries to run outside. In the ensuing dispute, Ben hits her, like pretty hard, dude, damn, and she faints, relegating her to the couch for a while. Ben listens to radio reports about what's happening outside, but the information is incomplete. Remember, this movie created the undead zombie, so the characters in it wouldn't have any idea what was happening.
There is an epidemic of mass murder being committed by a virtual army of unidentified assassins.
As far as they know, these are hordes of senseless assassins walking around in a trance, which is nothing a little sofa fire couldn't fix, am I right? Get out of here, zombies. Just go on and get. Ben fixes up Barbara's feet and tells her he's got this place pretty damn safe. Might as well start tidying up inside. Hey, that's way more of a face than we saw before. That corpse used to be missing all its skin from its skull, and the radio reveals why that is.
Medical examination of victims' bodies shows conclusively that the killers are eating the flesh of the people they kill.
All of a sudden, two dudes come out of the cellar, and they're really good at identifying objects.
A radio.
Harry Cooper here finds himself on Ben's shit list right away, since he's been downstairs this whole time, but never bothered coming up to help.
We luck into a safe place, and you're telling us we gotta risk our lives just because somebody might need help, huh?
Yeah, something like that.
With the introduction of Harry Cooper, we get the moral conflicts that make zombie media so interesting. The fact that he's a white man, visibly bristled by Ben's leadership, also gives us cultural commentary that would have been extra salient in '68, in the midst of the civil rights era. Brief tangent about that. Romero said repeatedly that he didn't write his script with a racial message in mind. Ben was written as a white man, but since Dwayne Jones gave the best audition, Romero cast him in a sort of colorblind way.
They were going after the guy when he was white. So that was not our point.
Regardless of Romero's intent, though, the racial implications were impossible to ignore. Romero admitted as much after critics and viewers called attention to it.
I mean, America was still segregated to some extent in the South, and some theaters down in the States and in the drive-ins wouldn't book this because of the color of the hero's skin.
Yes, that's right. That's right.
Of course, Dwayne Jones was aware of the subtext all along. As a black man, he didn't have the option to ignore the matter. That was made painfully obvious when he was driving home from set one night and was followed by a truck full of racist teens brandishing a tire iron at him.
There was a moment when we were truly in real danger. We never stopped to fully acknowledge it.
Harry argues that everyone should move down to the cellar since it's only one door that they would need to defend. But all-American teenager Tom points out there'd be no escaping if the attackers broke through. Plus, another benefit of being upstairs is windows.
We got windows to see what's going on outside. But down there with no windows.
Gotta have windows, Harry. Then again, windows can be dangerous. Quit trying to get in through the windows, you ghoul. And do something about those putty hands, Jesus. The home invader takes a couple of shots from the Winchester, but isn't killed until he's hit a third time with a well-aimed headshot. As night falls, dozens of zombies show up. Some of them are naked, some of them have skin lesions, and some of them, ironically, are into that survivalist lifestyle. Gotta get that protein in. All of these ghouls were played by locals of Evans City, who were just excited to be in a movie, with no idea how impactful it would be. Ben and Harry continue to argue over where they should be and who's in charge.
You can be the boss down there. I'm boss up here.
As the characters shuffle around, we meet the final few survivors in the farmhouse. Tom's girlfriend Judy, Harry's wife Helen, and the Coopers' young daughter Karen, unconscious after being attacked by a ghoul. Helen Cooper is played by Marilyn Eastman, who I've always found completely gorgeous, and who also played that bug-eaten ghoul a minute ago. Beauty food. Helen is wonderfully aware of her husband's tendency to be an asshole.
That's important, isn't it?
What?
To be right, everybody else to be wrong.
Their chemistry is excellent, probably because Marilyn Eastman was the real-life business and romantic partner of Carl Hardman, who played Harry Cooper and who was a producer of the film. In fact, Night of the Living Dead's production company, Image 10 Inc., was a sort of merger between the Latent Image, which was Romero's commercial company, and Hardman Associates Inc., which was Carl Hardman and Marilyn Eastman's audio studio. True to the production's DIY nature, both Hardman and Eastman did the makeup effects for the zombies. Helen goes upstairs to scope out the scene. Helen, meet Barbara. She, likes doilies, I guess. What? Don't look at me, Barbara. You're the one who's catatonic.
Her brother was killed.
Yeah, I guess you've got a point. Harry Cooper don't give a damn and tries to order Barbara around, but Ben puts him in his place fast.
If you stay up here, you take orders from me. And that includes leaving the girl alone.
Just as Romero didn't think the race of his main character mattered, he also didn't consider the way he wrote his female lead.
I fell into the old trap of the damsel in distress. You know, she breaks her shoes, she breaks her heels, she falls, she does everything, and she winds up being catatonic and ineffectual all the way through the movie.
He'd address this issue in his future work, especially Day of the Dead and the 1990 remake of Night, in which Patricia Tallman plays a much more kick-ass version of Barbara. They get the TV working and tune in for a newscast, which in real life would have been black and white just like this film. By 1968, almost every movie was made in color, but Romero and his crew could only afford black and white film stock. It worked out though, and made the movie feel more realistic, since newsreels at the time were still broadcast in black and white. The characters watch as the newsman breaks open the big one.
It has been established that persons who have recently died have been returning to life and committing acts of murder.
Almost an hour in, they learn for the first time they're dealing with the living dead. They also learn what's causing this whole situation: a space probe that went to Venus and was destroyed as it re-entered Earth's atmosphere. I feel like that's a little known fact, that in the OG zombie movie, the dead come back because of Venusian radiation. The space magic is all but confirmed as the cause by a scientist on TV being interviewed by director George Romero in a cameo. Damn, that guy was tall. I love that this was shot in front of the actual US Capitol, guerrilla style no doubt. I also love this guy on TV who says people have to burn the bodies of their loved ones.
They must be burned immediately. Soak them with gasoline and burn them. The bereaved will have to forego the dubious comforts that a funeral service will give. They're just dead flesh.
That dude's not fucking around. Wanting to get help for the unconscious child in their cellar, the survivors make a plan to get to a rescue station mentioned on TV. Since the truck that Ben rolled in on is just about out of gas, they'll need to refuel it at a nearby pump. Harry tosses Molotov cocktails from the windows to scare the ghouls away, giving Ben and Tom an opening to get outside to the truck. Just be mindful of that stripper zombie! At the last minute, Judy runs outside to join the gents, and as Ben plays defense with a torch, they drive the truck, slowly but surely, to a gas pump on the property that was previously established when Barbara first reached the farmhouse. The refueling mission gets sloppy in a hurry. Ben has to shoot the pump free when they can't unlock it, and Tom accidentally waters the truck like it were a gasoline-chugging flower. A gasodyl, perhaps. The fire spreads to the truck, and although Tom drives it safely away from the pump, Judy's jacket gets caught when they try to escape, so they're killed when the truck goes up in flames. One of my most told stories is how this kill upset me as a young child, and how my mom quote-unquote comforted me by saying that when their burnt corpses were later eaten by zombies, it was kind of the same as when we humans eat fried chicken. She actually wasn't too far off from the truth. The zombie extras here are feasting on raw organs from the local butcher shop. Ben runs back to the house, but finds that he's been locked outside by the coward Harry Cooper. God damn, that self-resentment is just oozing out of his face. Oh man, Coop, when Ben gets in there, yeah, I don't even have to say it, huh? Ben doesn't either. He speaks with his fists, giving Cooper a few more bruises to join that shiner on his forehead. The tension in the farmhouse stays high as more and more zombies approach it. The only hope for survival is in the footage they see on TV, a sheriff's posse roaming the Pennsylvanian countryside trying to put down all these undead ghouls. Wait, this is a 3 a.m. broadcast. Why is it daylight in this footage? Anyway, this news report establishes a mainstay zombie rule.
The ghoul can be killed by a shot in the head or a heavy blow to the skull.
That shouldn't be too difficult, thankfully, given the zombies' speed and general messed upness.
Are they slow moving, Chief?
Yeah, they're dead. They're all messed up.
That is one of my favorite line deliveries ever, courtesy of the sheriff's actor, George Costanza, who was also the film's production manager. His interviewer in this scene is real-life broadcaster Chilly Billy Cardill, a native of nearby Sharon, Pennsylvania. The farmhouse's lights go out, and the zombies take this opportunity to attack. Through sheer numbers and tools, they start to break their way inside, and instead of helping Ben repel them, Harry grabs the gun so he can feel like a big man. This causes another fight between between the two that ends with Ben straight up shooting Harry right in front of the man's wife. God damn, that's cold. Harry survives long enough to stumble into the cellar, but he dies as he makes his way over to his daughter's body. Since Helen's not quite ready for any of these suitors offering their hands in marriage, she flees into the cellar as well, where she finds her daughter Karen having died and come back as a zombie. She's eating Harry's arm right now because she's gotta have her pops. Karen, who now wants to give her mommy a hug, was played by 11-year-old Kira Stone, the real-life daughter of Carl Hardman, who played her dad. She also doubled as the zombie upstairs when it was dragged away by Ben. That's why it had more of a face in that scene. Karen grabs a nearby mason trowel and uses it to kill Helen, stabbing her mother over a dozen times in a row. This matricide is made all the more disturbing by the film's spacey use of sounds and screams. And kids in 1968 were watching this shit? Nightmares for life, son! Upstairs, Barbara sees her old friend the cemetery zombie, and he's brought her bro Johnny along for a little sibling reunion. Barbara, sadly, and somewhat shockingly, is killed after she's dragged outside by her brother's reanimated corpse. Wasn't no final girl trope back then. The zombies break in and begin to surround Ben, and little Karen Cooper tries to give him a free pass to Club Zombie. He fends them off and gets into the cellar, ironically saving himself in the way he argued against this entire film. Although, actually, no. He said the cellar could be used as a backup, so Harry Cooper can still get fucked. Downstairs, Ben discovers quite the Cooper oopser. And since I'm counting zombie deaths, I'll count it when he kills Harry Cooper for a second time and Helen Cooper for the first, after both of them come back as the living dead. Ben takes a knee as the zombies have a tub thump and stomp around upstairs, and he waits it out until a film dissolve brings us mourning and some quiet. I guess zombie parties have curfews too. By the light of day, the human zombie hunters have gotten organized. They've got themselves a helicopter and a pack of good boys. Of course, these gun-toting guys could be considered good old boys, which is what gives this movie's ending that much more symbolic weight. Ben wakes up downstairs and hears the commotion outside. How could he miss all the gunshots going off as the posse kills 6 zombies shambling around? Man, counting zombies is gonna get real dangerous later. I can already tell. That's a future problem though. A present problem is watching this fucking tragic ending.
All right, Vince, hit him in the head, right between the eyes.
It is an absolute punch to the gut that Ben gets mistaken for a zombie and killed. It makes me want to cry every time I have to see it. So depressing and nihilistic. Really fits the year this movie came out. The haunting finale portrays still photographs of Ben's body being disposed of. The hunters drag it out of the house with hooks and toss it onto a pyre alongside the corpse of the cemetery zombie, which is the final kill I'll count. There is no way not to see the resemblance to real-life photos of lynchings in the US, showing once more that regardless of Romero's intentions, having a black man in the lead role highlighted our country's struggles with racism. A movie as multi-layered as this is great regardless of its kill count, but I've still got a duty to report a total to you, so hey, I'm coming to count you, numbers. By my count, there were 22 kills in Night of the Living Dead. 8 females, 3 of whom were zombies, and 14 males, 10 of whom were zombies. That's a lot of dead flesh baked into our pie chart. With a runtime of 96 minutes, that left us with a kill on average every 4.36 minutes. I'll give the golden chainsaw for coolest kill to Helen Cooper. I can't imagine seeing this kill on the big screen in 1968. It must have been a real assault on the senses. Completely disturbing. I love it. Dull machete for lamest kill will go to Johnny. Even as a kid, I was like, wait, what the fuck? He's dead? And hey, maybe I should have done this before with other zombie movies, but let's make a new award to highlight the best the undead has to offer. I'll give the inaugural Coolest Corpse Award for Best Zombie to the Cemetery Zombie. He's the first one we see, his jolting zombie movements are great, and he scores the first kill in the movie. It's like electing Washington as the first president. I kinda have to do it, you know? And that's it. Night of the Living Dead came out in 1968, and due to a clerical error, wasn't properly copyrighted. Filmed under the esoteric title Night of Anubis, it was originally released as Night of the Flesh Eaters. years. When they changed the name, the distributor failed to copyright the new title, so it fell into public domain, which sadly cost Romero millions in lost revenue. Its public domain status, however, did lead to its popularity, as anyone could screen or re-release it without paying royalties. It's also why you'll notice it on the TV and in the background of countless other movies. Seriously, you can't throw a stone in a video store without hitting a movie that uses it. Then again, you can't throw a stone in a video store at all. They don't exist anymore. I'll continue this series. Dawn of the Dead, originally released in 1978, 10 years after Night of the Living Dead. Whereas Night showcased the beginning of the zombie problem, Dawn shows it becoming more widespread. Appropriately, the scope of the film is much larger than its predecessor. No longer confined to a single farmhouse, Dawn zooms out to show us how various institutions react to the new reality, before narrowing back down to follow a group of 4 survivors as they hole up in a shopping mall and make the place their home. Night of the Living Dead was revolutionary, but Dawn of the Dead is nearly just as important, and also my personal favorite zombie movie. Might even be in my top 10 horror films of all time. It's an awesome mix of action, gore, comedy, and satire, all put together by a group of horror movie legends. Firstly, George Romero, who once again wrote, directed, and edited the film. After a decade away from zombies, during which he extended his talents to rom-coms, sci-fi horror, and vampires, among other films, Romero's return solidified him as the grandfather of the undead. When Romero and producer Richard P. Rubenstein were unable to find American investors for the project, the next big name stepped in, Dario Argento, the Italian giallo filmmaker who was just coming off of Suspiria, one of my favorites. He secured financing and put Romero up in Rome for 3.5 weeks as he wrote the screenplay. He also did sound design and provided music, with his longtime collaborators Goblin, miscredited here as The Goblins. Finally, Tom Savini created the special effects. Dawn was only his second film after Romero's Martin. Romero had originally wanted him to do effects for Night, but Savini had to serve in Vietnam instead. With Dawn, he showcased the intensity of his work, which caused the film to be released unrated and put Savini on the map. Dawn was what got him Friday the 13th 2 years later. His effects also make this movie an issue for YouTube, which is why today's episode is sponsored. You might not be headed to a shopping mall soon, but you still need a way to carry cards and cash. May I suggest Ridge Wallet? These durable modern wallets help you cut out the clutter and keep your pockets light. That way you can still move fast in case of a zombie outbreak. I love that my titanium Ridge Wallet can hold up to a dozen cards, and that it keeps them all secure with RFID blocking tech. That prevents digital pickpocketers, which is apparently a thing in this scary world we live in. The wallets are available in over 30 colors and styles, and you can try one risk-free. If you don't like it, send it back within 45 days for a full refund. Go to ridge.com/deadmeatjames and get a Ridge Wallet for 10% off by using the coupon code DeadMeatJames. They make for a great Father's Day gift, so what are you waiting for? That's ridge.com/deadmeatjames, coupon code DeadMeatJames for 10% off a Ridge Wallet today. Final note for this one, as per usual, I'll be using the theatrical cut for the kill count, but Dawn of the Dead is one of those movies that wound up with a whole bunch of versions. The main alternates are an extended version with extra footage, an Italian cut put together by Argento, which was released under the title Zombie and uses more Goblin music, and an extended cut that combines footage from all 3. I'd love to do a cut comparison looking at them sometime, but y'all gotta watch those videos if you want more to happen. Here, I made a playlist to make it easier for you. When there's no more room in hell, the dead will walk the earth, but honestly, I think Satan just got tired of counting them. Thankfully, I'm not a lazy asshole like that guy, so I'm happy to do my job and get to the kills. The movie begins on a shaggy red wall. Wake up now, little lady. It's time for a title card. It's been 3 weeks since the undead began rising to walk the earth, and things are chaotic everywhere, including at this broadcast station. The government is now telling people not to stay inside their homes, which is the movie's way of saying that the world of the first film is gone. At this point in the catastrophe, you can't just hole up in a farmhouse. Now it's all about emergency stations and emergency protocol, which includes destroying the brain of your deceased loved ones. Black interviewer Sidney Berman yells that he doesn't trust that advice, even though his guest Dr. Foster warns him of this threat's cyclical nature.
It gets up and kills. The people it kills get up and kill.
I mentioned the host's race because this distrust towards authority by minority communities is one of the many themes this film comments on. Director George Romero, here in a cameo alongside his then-wife and assistant director Christine Forrest, may have stumbled into cultural commentary with Night of the Living Dead, but in Dawn, he decided to make his messages loud and clear.
I wanted to try to give it the same thematic core that the original film had and speak about some of my own ideas about society. And I don't think it's an underlying message. I think it's like in your face.
TV producer Fran Parker, played by Galen Ross in her first acting gig, sees the writing on the wall when her boss says to keep advertising defunct rescue stations.
Without those rescue situations on screen, every minute people won't watch us. They'll tune out.
With things descending into all new levels of fuck it, Fran had better get out of here with her boyfriend Stephen Andrews, played by David MG, who weirdly enough was that Moonface guy in Basket Case 2. Stephen's a traffic report helicopter pilot, and he makes a plan with Fran to steal that whirlybird and fly away. Elsewhere in Philadelphia, a SWAT team prepares to raid a low-income housing project for refusing to hand over their dead. The inhabitants inside are black and Puerto Rican, and slur alert, this dude Wooly doesn't like that one bit.
Low-life bastards, blow all their low-life little Puerto Rican and their asses right off.
Yeah, dude's a piece of shit. Officer Roger DeMarco tries to chat with someone who's not a walking hate crime, but rookie Roy Tucker is killed as soon as the rooftop shootout begins. A group of men who live there, one of them in brownface, tries to fend off the police, but are gunned down pretty quickly. 3 of them right away, and though Roger tries to save a 4th, the guy runs out to get shot and do a swanton off the roof. The cops use smoke grenades and begin to move in, and once again, Romero is incredible at portraying noisy, helpless chaos. Wooly goes pure evil and kills 2 innocent men, the second with a shot that blows apart his head. Jesus Christ. That disturbing kill was done so graphically to immediately set the tone.
We needed that kind of sucker punch, just to say that this is real horror.
Savini filled the rubber head with condoms and apple cores, then blew it up with a real shotgun. Classic Savini. Stephen tries to stop Wooly from more bloodshed, but it takes a mystery man from another unit to put him down by shooting him through the back. Good. Fuck that guy. And don't ask me to count that body back there. It's the dude whose head blew up, even though that doesn't make sense spatially. We get our first look at Dawn of the Dead zombie design, with their famous face paint that looks like pool cue chalk. Tom Savini, confronted with how to depict the zombies in color, tried to make their faces gray with simple pancake makeup.
Which was not a good idea. Sometimes it photographed green, sometimes it photographed blue, so I don't think anybody was ever really just gray.
Roger and his fellow officers are able to kill 2 of these zombies, but a 3rd one named Miguel makes it out to the hallway, where he kills a loved one who embraces him by eating at her skin. Zombie Miguel is then killed by other officers. A young cop just can't handle all this apocalypse, so he joins the count by shooting himself in the head off screen. Downstairs, Roger meets Officer Peter Washington, the guy who shot Wooly when he was being a mammoth problem. Peter's played by Ken Foray, a titan in more ways than one. Dude's a horror legend and kill count veteran, with 4 previous appearances under his massive belt. Also, he is so large, he makes Chelsea and I look like children. While Roger and Peter are bonding, a one-legged priest arrives to tell them he's given last rites to a stash of undead bodies in the back, so GLHF with that.
You are stronger than us, but soon I think they be stronger than you.
It's not easy for Roger and Peter to dispose of all these zombies by shooting them in the head one by one. Even though most of the killing is done off screen, I'll assume they finished the job, which is why I'm counting the full dozen shown in this group. I won't be counting the 2 bastard skellies though. They know what they did. As they finish up, we match cut to another dead body Stephen finds at the police dock, where he's about to take off in the helicopter. Turns out Roger is bros with Stephen and is part of the getaway plan. He's brought Peter along too, but don't worry Stephen, Pete's cool, as long as you don't love orange soda. They take off as skyscrapers go dark behind them and fly through the night. Hey, Stephen, you can't nap up here. You're flying, man! They're flying west from Philly and are currently over the countryside.
We're still pretty close to Johnstown.
I love the Johnstown shout out since I went there every year growing up to visit my mom's family. A lot of mountains and an inclined plane. That was always fun to ride. Great sequence here of the rural populace being recruited to fight zombies by the actual Pennsylvania National Guard. They agreed to be in the movie with all of their equipment because everyone in Pittsburgh knew and liked George Romero.
It's funny how Pittsburghers, you know, they just got behind everything.
The satirical tone of the film is established with a tongue-in-cheek country song.
I'm the man, the
I'm the man.
This manly montage gives us 12 zombie kills to count, as they're treated like sport by these gun enthusiasts.
I got him. Ah, missed.
I'll count the zombies we see getting shot at, even if we don't see them getting hit. And I'll also count the two near that car, even though they disappear by the time a guy blows it up. I'm guessing it was a budget and safety thing to not have anyone around that explosion, but obviously it was meant to be a double kill. Our heroes land their chopper for a quick refueling and to look for supplies. Naturally, zombies occur, and at this early juncture, Fran appears pretty Barbara-esque, not doing much to help Steven when he's wrestling with the undead. Galen Ross refused to scream during this scene though, cluing Romero in on how she wanted to portray the character.
Galen sort of woke me up to the idea that that's not necessarily the way it should go.
Steven saves himself by braining that zombie with a mallet, then gets up and full body tackles this other Zed while running away. I've always loved how ridiculous that looks. Another zombie accidentally kills himself with a haircut from the chopper blades. This infamous kill was done with a prosthetic that added 2 inches to the actor's head, which was then pulled away with fishing line as crew members pumped blood through tubes. The helicopter blades were animated in later. During this pit stop, Peter has his own traumatic experience when he's attacked by 2 zombie kids played by Tom Savini's niece and nephew. He shoots and kills the children, which has a visible effect on him. Ken Foray wasn't a big fan of doing it either.
Didn't enjoy that, shooting the kids.
Steven begins his character arc of masculine insecurity by missing all the shots he takes against zombies, and nearly shooting Peter in the process. Roger has to step in and kill the Zeds for him, including this bald one who would later be used in a lot of the movie's advertising. Peter is pissed about nearly getting shot, and his annoyance with Flyboy continues as they argue over where they can take this stolen bird.
Wake up, sucker. We're thieves and we're bad guys. That's exactly what we are. We gotta find our own way.
Their own way leads to a shopping mall, which is the setting that makes this movie an all-time classic. It's the ultimate fulfillment of zombie apocalypse daydreaming. It's got power due to a generator and supplies thanks to consumer culture. But it's also got a few zombies wandering around inside.
What are they doing? Why do they come here?
Some kind of instinct, memory, what they used to do. This was an important place in their lives.
Gee, George, trying to tell us something? Romero came up with the idea for Dawn while touring this mall in Monroeville, Pennsylvania. Opened in 1969, it was one of the earliest shopping centers in the country, and since this was before the mall craze of the 80s, Romero included a line for any unfamiliar viewers.
What the hell is it?
Looks like a shopping center, one of those big indoor malls.
Dawn's budget was about $1.5 million. Much bigger than Knight's, but still not huge. That normally wouldn't be enough to shoot inside a shopping mall, but Romero was friends with the mall's manager, who he had met during college at Carnegie Mellon. He allowed them to shoot around the mall's business hours, restricting them to overnight shoots from 11 p.m. to 7 in the morning. That's pretty short for a shooting day, but the small crew was enthusiastic thanks to Romero's collaborative leadership.
It's the our gang style of shooting. You know, let's make a film.
The renegades gun-butt their way through a roof window, gaining them entrance to a back room filled with supplies. It's separate from the shopping mall, with the only way in through a stairwell, so after barricading the only door, they're able to get some rest and eat Spam.
Don't knock it. It's got its own key.
Peter and Roger figure there's a lot more than Spam downstairs, so as Steven sleeps, they decide to explore. Peter leaves Fran with a gun to protect herself.
You'll probably hear some shooting. Just don't panic, okay?
Peter's so fucking cool. They head through hallways and boiler rooms and turn everything on to distract the zombies. Music, escalators, fountains, whatever throws them off their game, you know? The sequence gives us 3 background bodies to count, including one on the escalator, who I get real nervous watching. Fear and respect, people! It's in the mall that Romero adds a lot of humor to Dawn.
You can laugh, and you can have as much fun as you want with this, but remember, there's something else going on here.
The comedy not only comes from the zombie antics and elevator music, but also from the playful banter between Peter and Roger.
You game?
I need lighter fluid.
You got it.
Aw, they're so cute. They're also effective, killing 2 zombies as they unlock a door to get into JCPenney. There are no zombies in the stores themselves since they've been locked this whole time. So even though Roger loses his rifle when a zombie takes it away from him, the mission is worth it. They're now safe from zombies, as soon as Roger shoots this one that slid in through the door with them. Steven wakes up and, just needing to feel like a man, takes Fran's gun to go join in on the fun. Oh, Flyboy, the SWAT dudes don't need your help. They've already already stocked an entire wheelbarrow full of supplies and have figured out how to herd the zombies by luring them around with noise. Romero wanted these zombies to be individuals, so he told the background actors to come up with their own zombie styles.
He let us do what we wanted to do.
Production could only afford to pay zombie extras a single dollar, but locals kept showing up and working the long hours just so they could be part of Romero's latest film. On his solo mission, Steven finds a map and another gun he doesn't know how to shoot. This is proven in the boiler room when zombie Josh Holloway comes after him. Steven gets all rootin' tootin', his missed shots zipping and zapping as they ricochet. His one and only final shot kills the zombie, sparing Steven a boiler room death, and you don't want one of those. Just ask Fred. Steven pops out of the stairwell and nearly into the arms of a zombie. Thankfully, Peter, who just tossed a zombie over the banister, get fucked, is here to help him. Two zombies get gunned down as they run across the mall to reunite with Roger. They get safely inside the department store again, but an unusually stealthy zombie jumps out and tackles Roger to the ground. This attack was added while filming to explain a continuity error they caught with Roger's sweater, which is why, after he kills the zombie with a screwdriver stab in the ear, he leaves the sweater behind in the zombie's clutches. Once again, they herd the zombies around with distractions, but they can't control the movement of every Zed in the building. A Hare Krishna zombie, who saw Steven come out of the access door, has figured out how to open it and is slowly making his way to the back. The guys find themselves momentarily trapped until Steven tells them about an air duct system they can use.
I saw it on a map.
Way to step it up, Steven! They find access to the ducts in an elevator shaft and crawl through them as the Hare Krishna zombie finally reaches the stairwell. Despite Fran's best efforts, the zombie gets through to the back room and is about to have a Fran snack when the others get back just in time. Roger kills the memorable zombie by smashing its head with a gun butt. The attack leaves Fran traumatized for the night, and Steven lets the others know of further complication.
She's pregnant.
But Fran is not Barbara and refuses to be the group's den mother.
I want to have something to say about the plans. There's 4 of us, okay?
Jesus, Fran. Fair enough.
One of my favorite little things is how Peter treats Fran as an equal. He chatted with her casually on the chopper, gave her a gun when he and Roger went out, and now tells her that he'll show her how to use it later. Her partner Steven, conversely, gets pissy when she demands he leave a gun with her, as if he'd even be able to shoot anything with it.
I just might be able to figure out how to use it. I'm sorry, Steven.
I just love how real and complicated all these characters are. Since they've decided to stay at the mall for a while, they need to block the doors from zombies and other threats. As Steven flies overhead, Peter and Roger drive trucks from a nearby yard over to the mall. Roger successfully blocks one entrance, but while he's hot-wiring a second truck for round 2, some zombies show up without him noticing, even though they're blaring the intro track from Demon Days. Dope. Roger is attacked by a lady zombie in plaid, played by Jeannie Jeffries, who was an assistant makeup artist and Tom Savini's girlfriend. Peter comes over and kills her with a headshot, which saves Roger and gives him some blood to wash his face with. Roger then gets a kill for himself by shooting another zombie in the head. This close call puts Roger on tilt.
We got this, man. We got this by the ass.
And Roger on tilt kinda sucks. He's now more reckless, intentionally hitting and or running over 4 zombies/dead bodies, all of which I'll count. He's able to block the second mall entrance, but spends too much time revenge shooting these 2 zombies to death. It nearly gets him bitten, except Fran saves him from the rooftop. Peter gives his friend a stern talking to, but it's too late. The next time they're back at the trucks, Roger is overwhelmed.
Roger! Roger, watch it!
That bite seals Roger's fate with a calf chomp reinforcing that he's a future goner. Sorry about your future loss, Pete. Fran dresses Roger's wounds while Peter and Steven restock at a hunting store, which in real life wasn't part of the Monroeville Mall. This was filmed at a separate location, Pittsburgh's Firearms Unlimited. All other locations were actually in the mall, except the elevator shaft and the hideout apartment, which were both shot on a soundstage. I gotta imagine this gun store scene is what Edgar Wright and Simon Pegg were thinking about when they mentioned making Shaun of the Dead in a country without, well, this. The group then heads out on a mission to lock all the doors, during which they shoot and kill 9 more zombies. I count 3 from Roger in his little death wagon, 5 from Peter with his nice new shiny sniper rifle, including this lady who digs into Roger's calf, he shoots her from the hip, and the final kills from Steven, done as they drive away in a hot-wired Volkswagen Scirocco. They Blues Brothers around the mall, locking all the doors, which the zombies won't be able to overrun with those trucks parked so close.
We'll get it all locked off.
Then we're going on a hunt.
Peter begins that hunt in earnest with his sniper rifle, and sometime later, they've cleared the place out. But right now, I'll only count the additional 17 bodies we see in these overhead shots. Although the place is safe now, Roger's getting worse and worse. He's so delirious, he's asking Peter to sing Devo for him.
We whipped him. We whipped him good.
Aw, at least he humored him. To better their long-term prospects, they build a wall to hide the access door to the back. They also clean the place of all the dead Zeds, and look, it's impossible to know if I've counted these bodies before. So how about I just count the 27 I see in this overhead shot and call that good enough? We'll assume the bodies seen in close-ups as they load up the freezer are the same ones we already saw, alright? With their chores done, it's time for their allowance, courtesy of the mall's bank.
You never know.
I love the security cam joke here, though I wish they had used this still instead. Peter's got a way funnier expression in it. This kicks off a montage of hedonism, the 4 survivors living out their free money fantasies with all the ennui of a French filmmaker. I love the ideas this sequence provokes. How much of our lives do we live for ourselves versus how much do we do for other people? And is a life of pure pleasure even enjoyable if society has ceased to exist? As they muse these questions, Peter talks about his grandfather, who practiced voodoo in Trinidad and who always said these haunting words.
When there's no more room in hell, the dead will walk the earth.
This future tagline was written while a drunken Romero rushed to finish the script. It serves as a nod to the Caribbean origins of zombies and Romero himself, whose dad was Cuban. Roger grows more ghastly and asks Peter for a favor. Take care of him when he comes back, won't you, Peter? Peter?
Peter? Yeah, I'm here, man.
This is the last time we see Roger alive, so I'll count his death now, as Peter promises to eventually do him in. That promise is called upon later, while Fran and Steven watch a broadcast that's so desperate and amateur it looks like Check It Out with Dr. Steve Brule. Funny camera work, but serious discussions at hand.
And since we haven't touched upon our nuclear resources, why don't we drop bombs in all the big cities?
As that scientist calls people dummies!
Dummies! Dummies!
Roger rises from beneath his sheets. He said he would try to fight it, but he's now a zombie, with actor Scott Reiniger covered in tissue paper makeup that took about 90 minutes for Savini to apply. Peter keeps up his end of the bargain and shoots his friend off screen. After they bury Roger in the mall court, their lives become much quieter. Months go by, evidenced by Fran's visibly pregnant state, but even after all this time, zombies are still trying to force their way in. Not sure why, it's not like there's anything to watch on TV anymore. While Fran is learning how to fly the chopper, something she insisted on doing just in case, the bird is spotted by some nearby bikers, one of whom is played by Tom Savini, who knows how to style a handlebar stash. They radio into the mall rats and Pete correctly pegs them as raiders, and that's a problem they're not going to be able to ignore.
We don't like people that don't share, you just fucked up real bad.
This call to arms signals the beginning of a war, and judging by the number of headlights they see, our heroes are severely outmatched. Peter suits up and gets serious, knowing the fun and games are over. The bikers are here, and they know how to kill. They blow one zombie up with a grenade and shoot 4 others in the head. The bikers break their way into the building, and I'm not sure when it happens in the movie, but at some point during production, a charge went off that accidentally destroyed the mall's windows.
And you can just tell they're saying, how much is this gonna cost us?
Big whoops. Their breaching of the barriers lets the undead inside, leading to the one line in Romero's original trilogy where the word zombies is said.
Listen, with those bay doors open, there's gonna be 1,000 zombies in here.
The biker sequence is a return to the utter chaos of the movie's early scenes, as members of the real biker gang, the Pagans, drive around the mall amidst 500 zombie extras.
For these guys to ride their bikes through a shopping mall must have been a charge.
This insanity was filmed over the course of 2 nights with a loose lighting style from cinematographer Mike Gornick. It was the only way they could get all the shots they needed.
You had to, spend 2 hours lighting every setup. It would have been absolutely impossible.
Savini compared the experience to his time in Vietnam as a combat photographer. Don't take that the wrong way, though. He also called making this movie a months-long Halloween.
Life was so boring compared to being on the set of Dawn of the Dead.
The bikers raid every store in sight, including, apparently, Clowns R Us. In the film's silliest sequence by far, they pie and spray the zombies with seltzer water. Again, Romero wanted this movie to be funny.
At that point, I said, this is so nuts. What don't we have? We don't have a pie fight.
Let's have a pie fight with the zombies, you know. We may use it, we may not.
But it's good for a laugh.
I've always found it a tad too much for me, and plenty of other people felt similarly.
I thought it was horrible.
Steven can't stand to see these clown supplies wasted and shoots at the bikers in anger. Great, now everyone's angry. No wonder that guy wants to check his blood pressure. That senseless biker is played by sound designer Tony Buba, who nearly went deaf recording all those motorcycles driving around indoors. The bikers get serious and kill 5 more zombies. One gets macheted in the head by Savini, another gets decapitated, and a few are shot, including this feller who belly flops into a fountain. Peter engages in a shootout that I think is filmed and edited quite poorly. It's way too disjointed to believe that all this action's taking place in the same space. He connects with 2 gunshots in between the lights going off, killing 2 of the bikers before retreating up a rope ladder into the air ducts. Steven also tries to hide above the fray, but the bikers find him in the elevator and shoot him in the shoulder. Ouch. Blades, Savini's character, gets a kill out count when he stabs a zombie in the neck, but then Peter shoots him and I'll count that as well, mostly due to the stunt fall that Savini did himself. Savini was a gymnast in high school and did a lot of the movie's stunts alongside his friend Tasso Stavrakis. Stavrakis also helped him with zombie makeup, and later would be the one who blew blood out of Kevin Bacon's neck in Friday the 13th. Savini's swan dive death fall almost ended in disaster. Dude nearly missed the crash pads he was supposed to fall onto. Whew. The bikers begin to retreat and Peter shoots 2 of them on their way out, but they're both ultimately done in by zombies along with 3 other bikers. These victims include blood pressure test guy, who inexplicably tries to use the machine up until the very end. They also include a guy named Sledge, played by Tasso Stavrakis. These kills are Savini's gore showcase, utilizing real guts from a slaughterhouse. Real nasty stuff. Unfortunately, the zombies don't restrict their diet to bikers. They also attack and bite into Steven as he's trying to climb back into the elevator shaft. He manages to shoot 2 zombies during their feast, but the damage is way too done. That dude's a goner for show. Peter gets back to the apartment, and he and Fran wait to see if Steven will return too. While they do, the film's infamous gong sequence plays, showing the zombies retaking the mall as the bouncing tune by Herbert Chappell plays. It's during this montage that Steven is revealed to have died in the elevator. He's now a zombie, with top-tier zombie acting from David MG. He had a blast coming up with his limp and deciding his gun would be stuck on his finger, and Romero was a huge fan of the end result.
His body language, it's really worthy of Lon Chaney.
Zombie Steven instinctively returns to the access door, followed by a bunch of his new friends, including the one who took Roger's gun. By muscle memory, he tears down the facade of a wall they built, and when Peter hears this, he tells Fran to leave, but says he doesn't want to go with her. He'll buy her some time though by sniping Zombie Steven in the head. What a blood splatter! Zombie Steven's followed in by a bunch of other zombies, the frontmost of which is played by the film's weapons coordinator, Clayton Hill. Peter sends Fran out to the chopper and retreats into a back room to kill himself with a Derringer, and in Romero's original ending, he did. And then Fran did too, by sticking her head in the helicopter blades. But despite rumors and false memories, that ending was never filmed. Savini did make a cast of Galen Ross's head for the scene, but it was repurposed to be the exploding head in the Project Raid. Romero changed the script after feedback from the cast and crew.
I thought a particularly strong ending. At the same time, I could understand why they thought that would be too difficult.
I'm sure I was always saying, you can't kill everybody, you can't do it.
His less nihilistic ending begins with Peter shooting a zombie in the head. Overly heroic music plays as Peter makes his way to the rooftop. Fran watches as he emerges and fights off zombies with a pump kick, although he's unable to hold on to his sniper rifle. Gun Zombie always knows when to make a good trade. Finally, Peter makes his way into the helicopter.
How much fuel do we have?
Not much.
All right.
The movie ends with the fate of our heroes ambiguous, but that's better than what Ben got, so I'll take it. Plus, the gong plays once more over the end credits, and everyone loves the gong. Seth Green balked it for the end of Robot Chicken. My counting finger hurts from pointing out all those zombies. Let's see the final summation. What? I thought we cleared this place out. Guys, we missed one! By my count, there were 143 kills in Dawn of the Dead, but I promise no two people are gonna count the same number here. I had 22 living dudes, 75 zombie dudes, a single living lady, 30 zombie ladies, 1 unknown human corpse, and 14 unknown zombies, giving us our first, 6-part pie chart. What a fucking mess. With a runtime of 127 minutes, that gave us a kill on average every 53.29 seconds. I'll give the golden chainsaw for coolest kill to the 5 bikers we see getting torn apart in the mall. It's super disgusting, and an abrupt tonal change after all that clown shit. Definitely Savini flexing his skills. Dull Machete for lamest kill will be the post-hunt zombie deaths seen in the mall. And coolest corpse for my favorite zombie will go to Gun Zombie, though he had some seriously stiff competition. I just like that he pops up a few times throughout the movie and makes it all the way to the end, and that gun trade on the roof is hilarious. And that's it. Dawn of the Dead came out in 1978, and watching all this behind the scenes stuff only reinforces how sad I am that I'll never get to meet George Romero.
Who is this person who makes these horrible movies? It's this lovely, bright, sweet man that, yeah, you give 110% for because you want to. He's one of the best people I've ever known.
We'll check out his Day of the Dead, but don't break out the sugar skulls. I mean the 1985 George A. Romero zombie flick. By this point in the zombie apocalypse of this series, humans have become the minority, and in many cases, can't be found at all. Day follows a completely isolated group of survivors consisting of scientists and the soldiers assigned to protect them. These divergent groups have natural tension and lend themselves to a lot of ideological debate, and I mean a lot. While Romero inserted plenty of commentary in Dawn, in Day, the dialogue becomes an entry-level philosophy class discussion. The first half especially has a lot of scenes that are mostly just arguments, but the thoughts being explored are interesting, even if the acting isn't always up to snuff. In my younger days, I thought this movie was boring, especially compared to the zany romp-around of Dawn. Whereas Dawn had constant movement and action, Day is much more pensive, an occasionally pontificacious affair. Many critics and contemporary audience members felt the same way, and Day of the Dead suffered from these comparisons to its predecessor. But as an adult, I've grown to respect the movie's somber tone. It's not meant to be as fun as Dawn. By this point, things are too desperate for all that. Nowadays, I'm grateful that Romero didn't just make the same movie again. And thankfully, since its release, Day has gotten more of the appreciation it deserves. Day of the Dead was released 7 years after Dawn, which was successful enough to immediately ensure a third of the Dead installment. First though, Romero wanted to make a couple of other films. The horror anthology Creepshow, which I'd love to look at sometime, and a movie about a Renaissance fair on motorcycles? What? I'll have to check that out. These films were part of a deal with United Film Distribution Company, who originally offered Romero a $7 million budget for Day. But the lackluster performance of Night Riders and Romero's insistence on releasing Day unrated caused the budget to be cut by more than half. And with only $3 million at his disposal, Romero had to drastically downsize his original script.
It was just bigger. It was bigger. I had boats.
Yeah, it was Raiders of the Lost Ark with zombies.
Romero was fine with the revisions because it allowed him to retain creative control and release the film unrated to make the most of his makeup team, which not only saw the return of Tom Savini, but also the start of a few artists who would become special effects legends. Together, they gave us the goriest depiction of zombies yet, festering, nasty, and constantly hungry, always looking for another meal behind the next door. Of course, we as people get hungry too, and since we can't just eat whatever human flesh is around, it helps to have services like HelloFresh. HelloFresh delivers meal kits directly to your door and makes choosing dinner a simple experience. It's so easy a zombie could do it. Don't shamble your way to the grocery store. Save all that time and avoid food waste with pre-portioned ingredients that give you exactly what you need. HelloFresh's recipes take about 30 minutes to make, with quick and easy options that get it down to 20. You can also customize your plan by doing low-cal, carb-smart, pescatarian, or vegetarian, for those of us who don't want to go on the zombie diet. All of these options feature fresh produce sourced directly from farmers, and are shipped in packaging that's almost entirely made from recyclable content. Go to HelloFresh.com and use my code 12DEADMEAT to get 12 free meals including free shipping. That's HelloFresh.com, promo code 12DEADMEAT for 12 free meals with free shipping. Just a note, in case you missed the memo though, the sponsorship is because there's no no version of this video that could get ads on it. But I still have to avoid age restrictions or else YouTube will punish my channel in the algorithm, a word that I hate saying. Because of that, the most intense gore will still have to get blurred. I can't run afoul of YouTube's ever-increasingly stringent guidelines. I'm really sorry, and I hate doing this, but I'm working under the constraints imposed upon me here. Blame Tom Savini for making such awesome gore. Here, I'll show you what I mean. Let's get to the kills. The movie begins in a sparse white room. Looks like it's the calendar room. Aw, we missed Halloween. Oh, month's over, lady. Better flip the page. Just kidding, zombies say it's Halloween forever! This opening was a nightmare of Dr. Sarah Bowman's, played by Lori Cardell, who hailed from Erie, Pennsylvania. And if that last name sounds familiar, it's because her dad was Chilly Billy Cardell, the real-life broadcaster who played a reporter in Night of the Living Dead. Romero cast Lori after seeing her in a play, and she gives the best performance of the film easily. Sarah's on a search mission for other human survivors, with a soldier named Miguel, a radio operator named McDermott, and a cautious helicopter pilot named John.
I'll set us down, but I won't leave my seat and I'll keep the engine running.
They go in for a landing at Fort Myers, the biggest city around, with the film's Floridian setting buttressed by a Caribbean-inspired score. The music in Romero's original trilogy is so interesting to me. Night has those dramatic cues, sometimes gothic, sometimes sci-fi, all chosen by Romero from the High Q library. Dawn of the Dead had Goblin-making music for it, but many of us are only familiar with the American theatrical cut, which replaced a lot of those songs with more stock music, this time chosen by Romero from the DeWolf library. Those tracks are peculiar, to say the least, and are understandably divisive, even though I enjoy them. For Day, Romero had a composer in John Harrison, who was actually just on the kill count. Dude played Screwdriver Zombie in Dawn. He also scored Creepshow, directed a miniseries version of Dune, and wait, what the fuck? Wrote Disney's Dinosaur? What was this guy's life? Anyway, his score is completely original and cohesive, a first for a film in this series. Personally, I love it, but again, not everyone was a fan.
I didn't realize that there were people that absolutely hated it. I would have killed him if I had.
The bird lands and Sarah heads through desolation with Miguel, who looks for people while singing M1A1 by Gorillaz. Doesn't seem like anyone is here though, besides this gator trying to open a checking account. He must want to keep all this free money safe from bastard skellies. A newspaper screams that there is one more thing they'll find here. Well, actually, I'm sorry, two. The living dead and a title card! Also, there's a dead body in the street, and I've gotta count it, because that's my job. These zombies look much more consistent and, good than the blue-faced zombies from Dawn. They also make noise now.
You can hear it over the engine.
Jesus, Mary, Joseph.
The best zombie of the sequence is that title card zombie, nicknamed Dr. Tongue. He's actually a glorified hand puppet made from a foam sculpture of Tom Savini. His jawless state came about because of an accident with a drill. I never would have guessed this thing was a puppet. Those animatronic eyes are incredible. With nothing but Zeds around, the survivors fly back into the Everglades to their fenced-in encampment. This little bit of safety's not enough to soothe Miguel, who's about to fall apart because of the way they have to live.
We're all collapsing. This whole fucking unit is collapsing, everybody except you. I know you're strong, all right, so what?
Anthony DeLeo Jr. gives a soapy, histrionic performance as Miguel, and since he worked method, he had to keep himself away from the jovial camaraderie on set. Bummer. In this post-dawn world, the only living humans around are the 12 people living in this underground outpost. 3 are scientists, including Sarah, 2 are support crew, pilot John and radio op McDermott, and the other 7 are all military, including Miguel and these 2 assholes, Steele and Rickles. The underground base they live in is the perfect setting for this movie's darker tone, though it can feel jarring and claustrophobic after the skylit mall and open fields of Dawn. Just as with Dawn, Romero wrote his script with a specific location in mind, this limestone mine in Wampum, Pennsylvania, about 40 minutes north of Pittsburgh. Production spent 3 months filming in this mine, which also functioned as a bomb shelter and a storage facility.
They store multiple records from Washington, D.C., government records. They store government bought cheese, surplus cheese.
It's a memorable backdrop, but filming there came with plenty of issues. They had to watch out for hibernating bats, figure out how to light these giant caverns, and fix their film equipment when it got jammed up with mine dust. Worst of all was the effect it had on the cast and crew.
It was a very nasty and depressing place to be.
B12 injections were given to compensate for the lack of sunlight, but there was no getting around all that dust, and plenty of people got sick.
What is this black stuff that usually is all over you, but now it's like all over inside of you too?
In these dank tunnels, the survivors keep a corral of the living dead to serve as test subjects for Sarah and her scientist peers. They're trying to find a solution to the pandemic, and this military unit has been assigned to protect and assist them. That means retrieving test subjects when they need them, a dangerous task that Steele forces an exhausted Miguel to help with. Miguel loses control of the Zed, which nearly gets Rickles bit, and Steele responds by screaming racial slurs and threatening to feed Miguel to a zombie. That's about when Sarah's had enough.
Let him go, goddammit, or I'll cut you in half.
Fine, I'll let him go. Let him go right into these boxes! They get the zombies under control, but Miguel is still kinda slap happy. Or just slappy. Stop! To calm him down, Sarah tells him to look at the zombie rabbits and sticks a needle in his shoulder. Drugs? Yeah, Miguel, drugs. Take a nap now, little buddy. The leader of the military unit is Captain Rhodes, a scary motherfucker who just took command today. The previous leader, Major Cooper, died last night. With his new promotion, Rhodes is looking to shake things up, and he tells Sarah and her science pals that they're on notice.
I'm not even sure just what the hell it is you're doing in there. Just what the hell it is my men are risking their asses for.
Rhodes is played by the late Joseph Pilato in an iconic over-the-top performance.
They were saying I was over the top. I say no. I said, this is the point of view. It was like, this is fucking stupid. Kill him.
Like many of his fellow cast members, Pilato was a stage actor, which may explain why some of them seem like they're playing to the back of the room. Pilato's first film role was actually in Dawn of the Dead, though he can barely be seen in the theatrical version. Most of his stuff was cut and can only be found in the extended version. Rhodes sexually threatens Sarah and schedules a mandatory meeting for that night, and if it's one thing Sarah hates, it's mandatory meetings.
Yes, sir. Fuck you, sir!
Man, I love Sarah. We've come a long way from Barbara. Sarah takes a visit to Frankenstein's lab, their nickname for the operating room of fellow scientist Dr. Logan. Logan's played with a bright-eyed mania by Richard Liberty, who had previously been in Romero's The Crazies. He's performing gnarly experiments in an effort to learn about Zed behavior.
It wants me. It wants food, but it has no stomach. It can take no nourishment from what it ingests. It's working on instinct.
His latest subject is this cadaver that I think looks like a Mars Attack Martian without a helmet. Tom Savini had a different nickname for it.
I think that was called moose clit. Because it looked like a big moose clit, you know. You might put some beeps in there.
This obscenely named corpse was played by a dude named Barry Gress, so he could raise its arms in the air on cue. Poor guy had to bend his head backwards through a hole in that table. Quite the uncomfortable role. Dr. Logan has been spending his time gathering basic research, while Sarah wants something a bit more applied.
You're wasting time trying to define what's happening instead of looking for what's making it happen.
She doesn't buy his theory of learning how to control the zombies, especially not if he's secretly using military bodies for research. Turns out this unfortunate brainstem is Major Cooper, and since he's been talked about enough, we saw his grave, and we've got his body here, mostly. I'll put him on the count, along with 2 other bodies that are no longer living or undead thanks to Logan. Avoiding the count so far was this zombie with detached organs, but since he's having a hard time keeping his viscera inside of him, Dr. Logan casually anesthetizes him with a bloody drill bit to the brain. At Rhodes' mandatory meeting, radio op Bill McDermott says he can't get a hold of other people, and it's not because he's too drunk to use the radio properly. It's because society doesn't exist anymore.
Now, the power's off on the mainland now, in case you haven't heard. And all the shopping malls are closed.
In other words, the world of Dawn of the Dead is no more. With the soldiers acting fools, Sarah tries to leave the meeting, which is when she learns of Captain Rhodes' severe attendance policy.
Steele, shoot that woman.
Bang! You're dead.
Nah, Chucklefucks, ain't you heard me before? I told you, Captain Rhodes is a scary motherfucker. Things nearly boil over, with John standing up for Sarah until she returns to her seat so Rhodes' manlyhood can stay secure. He yells that this is a war, but the third scientist, Dr. Fisher, reminds him that the soldiers are there to protect them, so try to be less of a dick about it, huh? Fisher's played by John Amplis, a Romero regular. He was the title role in Martin, and, damn it, George, he's the guy you stuck in Brownface and Dawn. Dr. Logan shows up late to the meeting and tells Rhodes his feeble pea shooters are useless now.
They have overrun us, you know. We're in the minority now. Something like 400,000 to 1 by my calculations.
Logan boasts that his behavioral studies will be more useful sooner than Sarah's research to solve the pandemic. But Rhodes doesn't care about either of their approaches. He's on the verge of disbanding this entire operation. A lot of Day's earlier scenes are people yelling at each other, which is one of the slight dings I have against the film. Rhodes reestablishes a tenuous control, but things are clearly about to fall apart. If only everyone believed in cooperation like Sarah.
Maybe if we tried working together, we could ease some of the tensions. We're all pulling in different directions.
Well, that's the trouble with the world, Sarah darling. People got different ideas concerning what they want out of life.
Obviously not the most subtle of dialogue, but Romero really wanted to make this movie about the loss of community and the disintegration of trust in institutions and the government. He figured those themes worked perfectly in a zombie movie.
Human beings tend to devour each other instead of giving each other a kind of helping hand. They would rather eat each other up.
Sarah takes a snooze, reminding me strongly of Fran and Dawn, and has a nightmare of Miguel's guts spilling out onto the floor. But wake up, Sarah. Miguel's just fine. Well, I mean, he is Miguel, so not exactly fine, but... Oh, come on now, don't take that so personally, Miguel. Fine, be a big baby. Stressed out, Sarah takes a drink and a walk with McDermott, who takes her deep through the tunnels to where he and John live, the Ritz. This is where the two of them come to get away from the clamoring soldiers and scientists. And it's here where we get the film's best scene, even though, like most of Act 1, it's a lot of back and forth philosophical dialogue.
We don't believe in what you're doing here, Sarah.
John's not talking about Sarah's drinking. He is friends with McDermott after all. He's saying the entire concepts of science and history are pointless now.
What does it matter, Sarah darling? All this filing and record keeping. We ever gonna give a shit?
Sarah objects, but without a strong argument.
What I'm doing. That's all there's left to do.
And John rebuts that they can get out of there and go make babies. John, was this whole spiel a pickup line? No, it's John's sincere beliefs. He says that God's cursed them with hell on earth, a punishment for the arrogance of man.
We was getting too big for our britches. Trying to figure his shit out.
The reason this scene works so well is the acting. Like Laurie Cardell, Terry Alexander, and Jarlath Conroy were both stage trained. That's probably why Alexander handles these long monologues so deftly, even when he's doing them in a West Indies accent that wasn't his own.
I have to do this all the time for the people. They don't believe it's me in the movie.
On the subject of the arrogance of man, Dr. Logan's convinced he can train a zombie. He says they're simply less perfect humans, and that their behaviors can be conditioned with punishments and rewards.
Think about it. Think.
Hell yeah, the gong call back! Logan's star pupil is Bub, to whom he gives a brain-busting object recognition test using a copy of Salem's Lot by Stephen King. During the test, Bub remembers how to use a razor, or, generally, and even seems to recognize that at one point he knew how to read. Best of all, Bub is chill as fuck, and never tries to turn Logan into brain food. Bub was originally a much smaller character until actor Howard Sherman got on set and started killing it. Romero expanded the role and developed Bub's mannerisms with Sherman, who played the zombie as an infant with undeveloped hand-eye coordination. Bub's zombie makeup was done by the late John Bulick, who had worked under Savini for Friday 4, the final chapter. Bulick was inspired by the Nazi zombie makeup in Shockwaves, as well as Savini's makeup for Zombie Roger in Dawn of the Dead. He used the same tissue paper technique to have a sort of makeup continuity between the films. Captain Rhodes arrives, which is always the worst sentence to have to say, and Logan tries to show off his progress by getting Bub to speak, kind of. But neither Bub's eloquence nor his respect for service members is enough to impress Rhodes, who calls him a walking pile of pus. Since Logan wants to continue rewarding Bub for his behavior, he gives his student an unloaded gun to see what he does with it. Right then, but we'll be leaving. We get another argument over the value of science and civics, and another zombie farm rodeo with an exhausted Miguel. And who'd have guessed it, shit goes south yet again. A zombie attacks a soldier named Miller, who shoots off his gun, which hits and kills fellow soldier Private Johnson. Johnson was played by a 21-year-old Greg Nicotero, who's now one of the biggest names in special makeup effects, and whose son, I think, watches this show. What up, Devin? Though his on-screen appearance is minor, Day of the Dead was huge for Nicotero. Not only was he doing makeup under Tom Savini, but it was here that he met fellow makeup artist Howard Berger, who shows up later as a cave zombie. Berger and Nicotero would join with Robert Kurtzman to found K&B Effects in 1988, and since then, they've done effects for freaking countless horror movies. And it all started with this film in 1985. Sarah shoots the zombie that bit Miller, and after another zombie breaks loose and bites a huge chunk out of Miguel, Steele puts an end to that rebellious Zed as well. Sarah chases after a fleeing Miguel, while Steele is left with the dying Private Miller. At his friend's request, Steele shoots Miller in the head, because you know what they say, better dead than Zed. Miguel runs to the Ritz, where John and a big rock helps Sarah knock him out. Using John's machete, she performs an emergency amputation of Miguel's bitten arm. This is the first time in Romero's movies where someone tries to stop a zombie infection via amputation. For the effect, Savini had DeLeo stick his real arm out of a hole so he could wiggle his fingers around during the amputation. After cauterizing the wound, they put Miguel up in the Ritz, not as nice as it sounds, and John agrees to watch over him as Sarah and McDermott go get medical supplies. Good use of color in Frankenstein's lab, although this one specimen looks like it'd be at a photo op in a Roswell gas station. I'm not too big a fan of the experiment they find either. Looks Bishop-esque from Alien 3, only that was supposed to be an android. This head is supposed to be a reanimated Private Miller. It's an experiment signaling that Logan's gone mad, as if this tape recorder of generic crazy talk wasn't evidence enough.
I'd put it away, Mother, I'd put it away.
Why would he have recorded that? They see Dr. Logan go to check on Bub, who's living his undead life like any 80s teen in America. If 80s American teens listen to Ode to Joy, that is. Logan is proud of his zombie boy's taste in music, so he rewards him with fresh meat. Real fresh meat. Rhodes shows up and demands to know where it came from, and the answer's not surprising. It's greasy, grimy soldier guts. And if you thought Rhodes was strict about attendance, that is nothing compared to his punishment for improper body disposal. Captain Rhodes ruthlessly guns down Dr. Logan right there. And just like that, there is no remaining semblance of civility here. The soldiers confiscate the civilians' guns, and Rhodes grabs at Sarah's face and gives her the crazy eye, just like Steve Zissou after Esteban died. John hears conflict coming and leaves Miguel to step outside, where he finds his friends held at gunpoint. He disarms himself to prevent any further violence, though he does bristle at Rhodes' plan of flying away without the other civilians.
Me, my men, you, that's it. You'll never get me to do that, Rhodes.
Dear God! I barely knew Dr. Fisher's name, but that was cold-blooded as hell. The soldiers stick Sarah and McDermott in the zombie corral, and when John tries to protest, Rhodes orders him beaten by Steele. Can't kill him, since they need him to fly the chopper, but that doesn't mean he can't get movie punched and thrown around, you know? The beating is interrupted when they hear the elevator running, because Miguel has snuck off and is going up top. As the soldiers go to see what's happening, Sarah and McDermott decide that their best chance of survival is outrunning the undead in the tunnels. This underground adventure feels a bit like a haunted house, though it does yield an awesome moment when McDermott half decaps a Zed with a shovel. This effect was Savini's way of outdoing himself. He wanted a better version of the machete kill he did in Dawn, which used a cutout weapon and playing footage in reverse. Same concepts applied here, but, you know, is better. Much better. Doesn't go on the count though, because that brain is clearly still alive. Here, have a consolation kill, because Sarah bashes this zombie with a wooden board hard enough to count. John manages to free himself from Rhodes and his soldiers, but after knocking them out, he only disarms them. He doesn't kill them, because killing is distasteful. Now armed, he runs into the tunnels to save Sarah and McDermott. He kills 4 zombies on the way by shooting them in the head, with one of them played by Howard Berger, like I mentioned earlier. I'll also count this zombie that McDermott thwacks with a shovel, because I like his little flip and how McDermott kind of barks at him. Steele and Rickles get to the elevator and find the controls inoperable. Saboteur! A one-armed saboteur, Miguel, who also sabotages the gates outside the compound. And by sabotage, I mean opens. He leads his new zombie friends back to the elevator, and after throwing one up for the big man, lets them feast on him as he presses the button to descend. Damn it, Miguel, we never got to learn if that amputation worked. You're ruining science! He's also ruining the bunker, as Rhodes and his men watch a metric fuck ton of zombies lowered into it. They are eager to explore. That one's a little too eager. Yo, wait, is that Jim Carrey's The Mask? Smoking! Rhodes gets away on the world's slowest betrayal machine, leaving his men behind to deal with the eclectic as usual group of zombies. Alright, what do we got in this one, George? A football player? Okay. A bride? An army guy? Nice. That one's got a cigar and looks like Eric Wareheim playing a casino manager. As Rhodes gets back to the compound and locks the door behind him, his men try and fail to avoid the living dead. This last grunt I haven't mentioned, Private Torres, is played by Tom Savini's friend and this film's stunt coordinator Tasso Stavrakis, who also played Sledge the Biker in Dawn of the Dead. Much like in that movie, Tasso's character is torn apart by zombies. His kill is accompanied by a horrific shriek that grows higher pitched as his vocal cords are stretched. Surprisingly, Savini said he didn't love this kill. He thought there were too many zombie hands blocking the effects. Rickles runs through the tunnels and quickly falls victim too. He's only able to kill a single Zed with a headshot before they get him to the ground and, whoa, tear his eye out and bite off his fingers. Damn! I love how much this movie improves upon the already respectable gore from Dawn. Savini has called it his masterpiece, which is the highest praise a horror movie's effects could ever have. The last and largest of the grunts, Private Steele, shoots 2 zombies in the head as he runs back to the compound. I won't be counting any of the Zeds he sprays across the torso, but I don't need to. He's already doing way better than his friends. When Steele finds himself locked out of the compound, he uses a skeleton key to get inside, which also lets in the zombies. All of the zombies. Seriously, that is a ton of zombies! Oh, and one of them's a clown. Ha, what fun. Inside the compound, Bub accidentally frees himself while licking his plate clean of grunt guts. When he finds Dr. Logan's corpse, he experiences a fit of anguish and eyes a nearby gun as a means for revenge. Bub comes out to the hall and uses his gun to shoot at Steele. He misses, and Steele's about to drub Bub's head to a nub, but he's interrupted by a zombie attack, causing him to say wubba lubba dub dub. Steele is bitten, but makes sure to kill 4 more zombies still, including a couple of lady zombies and one that looks pulled straight out of Creepshow. With that, Steele does a sign of the cross, a suggestion by his actor, Gary Clark, then shoots himself in the head to avoid a painful zombie death. It'll also prevent him from coming back, meaning these Zeds just got themselves a hearty meal. Speaking of Creepshow, when John reaches Sarah and McDermott and they have a zombie-killing shootout, it veers into a pretty comic booky style. I guess George was still riding that wave. The 3 survivors reach the bunker's ladder and get 2 more kills as they climb. One lady whose head, oozes water, ew. And a guy zombie who tries to get John but is killed by McDermott. With that, they're able to ascend in a lovely swinging low-angle long shot. Bub finds Rhodes and opens fire, getting the captain once in the shoulder and then again in the leg. It slows Rhodes down, and when he tries to escape through a door, he's shocked to find a bunch of zombies and their zombie hands. Bub ensures that Rhodes is in no condition to retreat, then salutes him with an unspoken but heavily implied "fuck you." Captain Rhodes is overwhelmed and torn apart in a classic kill. It's an all-timer, not only because he's ripped in half and his lower body's dragged away, but also because of his defiant last words. The filming of Rhodes' death was just as gnarly as it appears on screen. During their week-long shoot in Florida, when they filmed the above-ground stuff, someone unplugged the fridge that held the 5 gallons of pig guts used for all the gore. With no time to get new supplies, Joseph Pilato had to endure a 4-hour shoot with rotting viscera right under his nose. There is so much behind-the-scenes footage of him retching and the zombie extras trying to fan the stench away. There was no avoiding it though.
To this day, I can still smell it.
Sarah, John, and McDermott make their way outside and run to the helicopter, hoping to beat the Zeds there. Quick, y'all, you're almost there. And that's how you skip writing an ending if you want to. Because that scare was just a dream, probably, and Sarah wakes up safe on an island. John and McDermott are there too, living all kinds of irie, because something has started today. Where did it go? What you want it to be? Well, you know, November has come, and this movie has gone away. How many kills can an underground bunker even fit inside? Let's find out and get to the numbers. Zombies, 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 zombies. I counted 35 deaths in Day of the Dead, with the victims consisting of 10 living men, 18 zombie men, 6 zombie women, and 1 unknown body in the streets of Fort Myers. No living lady deaths, since Sarah was the only one running around, and with a runtime of 101 minutes, that left us with a kill on average every 2.89 minutes. I'll give the Golden Chainsaw for coolest kill to Rhodes, though I will say this wasn't a given. Tasso Stavrakis' death was gnarly, as were a few others for various reasons. But the choke on it line is what won me over in the end. It's literally the only cool thing Captain Rhodes ever did. Dull Machete for lamest kill will go to the sun-dried corpse I counted in the beginning. Is that cheating? Probably. And coolest corpse award for my favorite zombie goes to Bob. Kinda hard to beat a Zed who appreciates Beethoven and Stephen King. Like, Dr. Tongue was cool and all, but did he ever use a gun to shoot Captain Rhodes? I don't think so. Bub, I salute you. And that's it. Day of the Dead came out in 1985, but thanks to a limited release, undercooked marketing, and confusion with the same year's Return of the Living Dead, it severely underperformed at the box office. Add in the lackluster reviews, and you've got one sad situation for the cast and crew.
They couldn't stand it. They loved Dawn of the Dead. So it just came and went.
As an actor, I was hoping this is my biggest role out here on film, and maybe somebody might recognize that I was talented and give me something else. Didn't happen.
Romero was especially deflated, as this was his favorite of the trilogy, and he wouldn't revisit the series until nearly 20 years later with Land of the Dead. I'll check out his second trilogy sometime eventually, as well as the remakes of these first 3 films. But next week, we've got different zombies to count, those on a train to Busan. Until then, I'm James A. Janice. This has been The Kill Count.